President Muhammadu Buhari signs revised 2020 budget. NNPC records 19% gas to power supply increase. Nigeria's excess crude account drops. This is Business Express on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and we're reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Muplang Dakok. President Muhammadu Buhari has formally signed into law 10.81 trillion naira revised 2020 appropriation bill recently passed by the National Assembly. The new budget estimates now has 2.48 trillion naira for capital expenditure, 4.94 trillion naira recurrent, and 2.6 trillion for debt service. At the brief ceremony attended by presiding officers of the National Assembly, the President directed that efforts be made towards ensuring effective implementation of the revised budget, which is occasioned by the impact of COVID-19.
The 2020 budget, which I have just signed into law today, underscores our administration's firm commitment to effectively contain the spread of COVID-19 and protect the lives and livelihood of our people. With these budget amendments, as well as our recently launched 2.3 trillion naira stimulus program, we are well positioned to safeguard the economy. All ministers are to ensure that their ministries, departments, and agencies intensify capital project delivery efforts and fully cooperate with the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning to achieve the laudable objectives of the budget.
Joining us via telephone to speak on the economic benefits of the just signed revised 2020 budget by the President is an economist, Paul Alaje, on telephone. Hello, Mr. Alaje.
Good afternoon. Thank you so very much for having me.
All right. President Muhammadu Buhari has just signed into law the 10.81 trillion naira revised 2020 appropriations. What are your thoughts on the revised budget?
I think the budget is now more realistic compared to the benchmark we had. Recall that before now we had $57 per barrel benchmark, which was later reviewed in the midst of the lockdown. But now what we have seems to be more realistic, and I could also notice that there has been significant consideration for the current expenditure. So what I see in the coming period is government is trying everything possible to sustain the economy through in this period of pandemic.
Okay, the review of the budget was necessitated by the impact of the COVID-19, which has affected the oil price and by extension the revenue projections of government. So how wise do you think this decision is coming, the decision to revise the budget?
Well, the pandemic is asking for too much. It's asking for life in terms of health, and it's also asking for money in terms of economics of nation. Countries that refuse to change to it will find itself lying down flat. Recall that starting with China to UK UK, Germany, and so on had locked down the economies, protecting their people alone from the pandemic. So countries have now realized that budget is made before the pandemic. In this case, for Nigeria, December, when the budget was signed and also announced by Mr. President in January, is no longer visible because of the happening that occurred around the world that we could not control. Global oil prices now is a bit above $30 per barrel. Our benchmark is below $30 per barrel. It is realistic. I even think that we may need to reconsider or review the budget again if the world discover maybe a cure or vaccine to the ongoing pandemic before the end of this quarter. But if that does not happen, we will have to make do with this budget till the end of this year and be hopeful that before next year starts, we would have found a major solution so that we can start to face the post-COVID immediately.
All right. About a quarter of the budget will be used for the servicing of debt. What's your view on this?
The service of debt is a major burden, and when we say we are using a quarter to service our debt, a number of people would say that, debt to GDP ratio. But debt to GDP ratio itself is just what we call the necessary condition. It's not sufficient. Sufficient condition is what happens to revenue. We mentioned 10.81 trillion naira budget, but from 10.81 trillion naira budget, that is not what we are going to generate in revenue. As a matter of fact, we will borrow almost 40 to 50% to finance this budget. So we are saying it technically that almost 80 to 60, not 70% of this budget of revenue is what will be spent on debt service. That is huge anywhere in the world. That is a sizable amount of money. However, this problem is not unique to Nigeria because from the information shared with us, with the organization by IMF, the world is currently experiencing unprecedented debt burden. As I speak to you, what the developed nations are faced with is times 5 of what was projected for debt service before now. So, based on information that is coming from international organizations such as World Bank, IMF, and also what World Health Organization is saying, I think Nigeria may just be out of options, limited options. Maybe that is why authorities have settled for this type of budget. Is that debt service high? I think it's too high. What else can we do? What I think we should do is what we should have started to do 20 years ago. And if we start to do it now, I don't think it will be wrong. Two policies together, import substitution and export promotion. When we practice export promotion, it could give stability on our currency against the rest of the world. And import substitution will also give us rest of mind and not deplete what we have in foreign reserve. Which also means that some of the things that we spend money on we must be there. I also want government, instead of considering to spend directly, may consider private sector on carrying out PPP, on road construction, power provision, etc., so that the limited funds that government has this day will be used to finance capital expenditure, which I think can bring us to a place we all want to be.
All right, before I let you go, very quickly, Mr. Laje, 500 billion naira is earmarked for intervention as a result of the COVID-19. Do you think that this amount is going to be enough? Is it sufficient?
500
billion naira.
500 billion naira.
Yes.
It's less than 1% of our GDP size. I think it's something government have earmarked. As I see, government is also announced through the Vice President 2.3 trillion naira stimulus package, which is approximately 1.5% of the GDP size. It's still also low, but it's a beginning. My concern is that even the 500 billion naira should have direct impact on businesses and on households, so that those who might have been out of job as a result of the pandemic could still be sustained and we have less job losses. What private sector is doing through COVID that is supporting about 1.5 million people and government effort of another 3.5 million people. And with this new finance coming, and what government has promised to do through stimulus package of 2.3 million naira, when you put all of those together, it might just become sizable. To support people is not less than 2.5 trillion naira to add to 2.3 that you already mentioned by the Vice President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul Alaje. We've been speaking to Mr. Alaje on the adjusted 2020 appropriation bill. The Nigerian Governors Forum, NGF, says it will engage Vice President and Chairman, National Economic Council, Yemi Osinbajo, to facilitate states' representation in the Implementation Committee of Nigeria Economic Sustainability Plan, ESP. The 36 state governors said this in a communique issued on Thursday in Abuja by the NGF chairman and governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, after its 12th COVID-19 teleconference meeting. The governors also advocated the need to revitalize Nigeria's mortgage bank to support the government's ambitious housing program and the importance of the 2 trillion naira Nigeria Infrastructure Investment Fund to stimulate the economy. And copper prices are likely to stabilize in the coming quarters, despite a recent surge in the red metal's value, analysts have predicted. Meanwhile, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has announced an increase of 19.14% in the average daily natural gas supply to power plants. This translates to 788 million standard cubic feet of gas per day, equivalent to power generation of 2,873 megawatts. The NNPC, in a release by its Group General Manager, Group Public Affairs Division, Dr. Kenny Obateru, says a total of 226.51 billion cubic feet of natural gas was produced in April 2020, translating to an average daily production of 7,786.17 million standard cubic feet per day. And talking currency, Chinese yuan still far from becoming a safe haven alternative to the US dollar. That's as said by CITI. Let's see how the naira is exchanging for other international currencies. The Central Bank of Nigeria seems to have devalued the naira by 5.5% to close the gap with unofficial rates. President Association of Bureau de Change Operators in Nigeria, APCON, Aminu Gwadabe, joins us via telephone. Okay, you're on to Business Express. The Central Bank seems to have vowed to pressure to devalue the naira, which currently exchanges for 381 to a dollar. What do you make of this development?
Well, we have a single exchange rate. I remember in 2014 when the civilian governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, came, one of his focal guidelines was to have a single exchange rate, because the foreign exchange market is the devil with so many rent-seeking, hoarding, speculation, round-tripping. That's the structure of the foreign exchange market in Nigeria.
Okay.
And when he came, he tried to address the situation by coming with a single foreign exchange market rate. However, I'm not attuned to allowing market forces to determine freely the value of our local currencies. So that's why sometimes you see some management in terms of is it float, in terms of managed float, in terms of free market determined rate. But this is a country that is, do I say, 100% dependent. We used to have a situation where we even import our toothpick. We import everything. All our industries have shut down since the advent of structural adjustment program that came, that we try to address backward integration. That have not happened. And we have seen several exchange rate regime, whole Dutch auction system, retail Dutch auction system, yet they have not updated the challenges we are facing in foreign exchange market.
Okay, how are people at the Bureau de Change market? How are other marketers? How are they taking it?
Honestly, for us, we are only service providers.
Okay.
Whatever the rate is, we attune to it. However, what we are witnessing now is like the market, because our window has been shut down. And anytime, like you said, there is an adjustment or unification. We have just seen the secondary market instrument where they move from 361 to 380. As I'm talking to you, the parallel market, which the policymakers see as shallow, is also behaving differently. As I'm talking to you now, the parallel market is about $4.70 to $8. So is the BDCs, because we're short, we're out of the market. So the BDC really need to come into, will remain the most important, the main tools of exchange rate stability. We did it from 2016 to 2020. We never heard of any volatility. We never heard of any spike.
Okay.
When we have the issue of this pandemic. So I still believe the retail end sector is where the pressure is.
All right. Quickly tell us the exchange rate this afternoon, this Friday afternoon, Mr. Gwadabe. The exchange rate between the Naira and the dollar and other major currencies.
I will give you dollar because that's our major currency against our import.
Okay.
Dollar is, as we are talking now, is even hitting about 470 in the parallel market. So I think we already need to put liquidity in the retail sector. You are a journalist, you need $500 to pay for your subscription. Somebody need money to pay for his school fees. Somebody need money to pay for mortgage. All these are demands that we have been seeing, so that we can remove speculation. Once the retail end sector is short of liquidity, we'll continue to see this spike.
All right,
So
very quickly, Mr. Gwadabe, the last question I'll ask you, you've already hinted on it. What is the way out to bring down the dollar, the price of the dollar, the exchange rate?
Like I said, the way out is let there be liquidity in the retail end sector. That's where the pressure is.
Okay.
And it's only BDC that can do that. So we are appealing. We know that our concept is travelers, but then we have scope. We can do also school fees, we can do medical, we can do subscription. So the students should open this window as soon as possible, so that we can checkmate the invisible or the evil forces that they have called them. What we are seeing is not even invisible forces, it's evil forces. So let the BDC come back, their window should be open. They serve the retail end of the sector. That's where the pressure is.
All right.
The portfolio investors will be looking at that market. Everybody is looking at that market. Manufacturers are looking at that market. The manufacturer will go and buy 381. The one is selling his product, he will do it at 470 that the parallel market is doing. So there should be liquidity in the BDC window.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Aliu Gwadabe, the president of APCON, talking to us about the exchange rate of the Naira this Friday afternoon. Let's take a break now, and Business Express returns shortly. Positive wrap this Friday on the Nigerian Stock Exchange as the NSE All Share Index appreciated by 0.12% to close at 24,306.36 basis points, with market capitalization at 12.6 trillion naira. A total volume of 131.6 million shares worth 899.4 million naira in 3,044 deals exchanged hands at the end of the day's transactions. The banking sector was the most dominant, led by Sterling Bank, Zenith Bank, and UBA. MTN Nigeria, Vitafoam, and International Breweries, the top gainers, while Guarantee, UBA, and Associated Bus Company were the top decliners. Asia-Pacific markets fell Friday as investors remain cautious due to the growing number of coronavirus cases around the world. Bosede Abel has a market update.
European markets reversed early losses on Friday 10th July as the data showed Italian industry output rebounding more strongly than expected. Asian markets fell across the board as investors remained cautious due to the growing number of coronavirus cases around the world. Hang Seng Index fell in late afternoon trade. Nikkei dropped 1.06% to 22,290.81, and Shanghai Composite also was down 1.95% at 3,383.32. Stock futures fell in pre-market trading Friday following a mixed session in which coronavirus concerns pushed investors further into tech shares. Dow Jones Industrial Average Futures showed an opening decline of nearly 200 points. S&P 500 and Nasdaq Futures also traded lower, while the bears took the toll on Africa's stocks as most markets opened negative in early trade this Friday.
And with the global market report, we end this episode of the program. Don't forget you can access this and all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is @NTA News Now. The hashtag is BizX. Do join us again on Monday, 3 p.m. for another package. And as we continue the fight against COVID-19, remember to protect yourself and others. I am Muplang Dakok.